The California sun draped warm light over Claire's backyard, where laughter spilled like music from an open window. Her Saturday party buzzed, colleagues from her law firm, David's golf friends, women from her fitness group. I, Margaret Collins, stayed where I always did, on the edges, in the kitchen, pulling a tray of shortbread cookies from the oven. My mother's recipe, buttery and familiar, filled the air. I arranged them neatly, wiped my hands on my apron, and carried the tray to the patio with the careful grace I'd learned as a young bride. Claire stood at the center, cocktail in hand, her blonde bob swaying as she laughed too loudly. I caught David's eye as I stepped outside. He offered a polite smile, then looked away. "Cookies, everyone," I said softly, holding out the tray. A few guests took one woman murmuring approval. Then Claire chuckled, waving at me dismissively. "Oh, she just kind of stays here," she said, as if I were a lamp or a stray cat. The laughter that followed wasn't cruel, just uneasy, but it stung like a slap. I stood there, tray in hand, my fingers trembling. David avoided my gaze. No one spoke up. I turned, retreating to the kitchen, where I collected empty glasses, scraped plates, and rinsed dishes in silence. No one thanked me. By evening, as Claire's heels clicked upstairs, I was polishing the granite countertop until it gleamed. David passed by, mumbling, "Thanks, Margaret, not Mom, just my name," then disappeared. 3 days later, alone in the kitchen, I reached for a mug and knocked a glass off the drying rack. It shattered on the tile with a sharp crash. "Damn it," I whispered, bending to gather the shards. Claire stormed in. "What did you do now?" she barked. "I'm sorry, she cut me off," hand raised. "You should know your place. You don't have a right to be here." I looked up, glass in my hands. "Lord, no," she snapped. "You think because you're old, you're entitled? Living here isn't a reward for cleaning crumbs." I started to speak, but she hissed, "I swear, if you don't get out, I'll call the cops." I froze. Her sharpness wasn't new, but this was different, raw, deliberate. "I'm your mother," I said softly. "This is my house. You think that matters?" She pulled out her phone, thumb tapping the screen. I heard the dial tone, her calm voice, "Hello, yes, I need to file a trespassing report." I walked past her, out the back door, into the garden where my rosemary and daisies bloomed. The soil, the seeds, the pruning, this was mine, the only part of the house that still felt like me. But her voice followed, sharp and certain, speaking to the police. She wasn't bluffing. Standing barefoot on the patio, the sun too bright, I realized Claire didn't see me as a mother anymore. I was an obstacle, a burden to be erased. The house wasn't always theirs. In 1983, Henry and I bought the old Victorian fixer-upper on a quiet California street. Peeling paint, creaky floors, outdated tiles, it was a wreck, but to us, it was a dream. We'd saved every penny, skipping fancy honeymoons for a borrowed cabin, cooking canned chili under one blanket. "It's got good bones," Henry said, grinning, his hand on the banister. We made it ours, painting walls, planting a patchy garden, raising Claire. She danced barefoot across drop cloths at 6, green paint on her cheek, giggling as Henry hummed country tunes. That house held our life, dinners on the porch, homemade costumes, birthdays, tears when Henry lost his job, cheers when he started fixing HVAC units. When he got sick in 2006, we turned the den into his bedroom. I cooked soup, held him through pain, until he passed one quiet morning, sunlight through the blinds. I stayed 5 years after, every creak echoing his voice. In 2011, Claire suggested I move in with her and David. "You won't be alone," she said. Loneliness won, and I rented out my house, packing memories into her guest room, hoping for family again. At first, it was kind, tea from Claire, bookshelves from David. But soon, my knitting basket vanished, my clock replaced by a digital one. Rules crept in, no garlic, no TV past 10, no guests. My garden pots were clutter. I shrank into a single room, cooking, cleaning, watering their roses, but never thanked. One night, I overheard Claire in the living room. She's always there, David. Emotional clutter. I stood in the dark, glass of milk trembling in my hand, her words carving a hollow in my chest. I didn't confront her. Silence became my ledger, and I was keeping score. The garden's rosemary clung to my fingers as I stood outside Claire's house, her voice echoing through the phone to the police. My house, the Victorian I'd built with Henry, felt like a home stolen by my daughter's disdain. I wasn't a mother to her, just a burden, emotional clutter she'd called me. But the deed was mine, locked away, and that truth kindled a spark in me. I wasn't old or defeated, I was awake, and I needed to act. I walked to the end of the street, my heart pounding, and called Arthur Breener, Henry's best friend and a retired attorney. Margaret, what's wrong? He asked, voice alert despite the early hour. I need to talk, I said. Today. He didn't hesitate. 10 a.m., my place. I checked into a motel off the highway. It's clean, no frills room, a temporary refuge. I sat on the bed, staring at the deed I'd brought, my name clear on the title, and felt a strange calm. Claire thought I had nowhere to go. She was wrong. At Arthur's bungalow, citrus trees hummed with bees. He opened the door in a cardigan, glasses perched on his forehead. You look like hell, Margaret, he said, a faint smile breaking through. I laughed, the first time in weeks, and we sat at his kitchen table. I laid out the papers, the 1983 purchase contract, property tax bills, the deed, all in my name. Claire tried to take it, I said, my voice steady. She called the police, said I was trespassing. Arthur flipped through the documents, his brow furrowing. She can't. Legally, she's got nothing. This house is yours, every inch. I exhaled, the weight of her threat lifting slightly. She's been pushing me out for months, I said. Rules, insults, treating me like a maid. I told him about the overheard conversation, Claire calling me clutter, and the party where she laughed, calling me a fixture. Arthur's eyes darkened. That's not just disrespect. That's control. He leaned back, thinking. What do you want to do? I didn't hesitate. I want to sell it. As soon as possible. His eyebrow rose. You sure? I nodded. I'm done begging for space in my own home. Arthur didn't question further. I'll draw up protections. You'll need a realtor. I thought of Rachel Tran, the daughter of a library colleague, now running a small real estate office. I know someone, I said. That afternoon, I received a call from my bank, a routine check that turned chilling. We had questions about a mortgage application tied to your address, the clerk said. My stomach dropped. What application? They sent copies, a home equity line of credit in Claire's name, with forged documents claiming she'd inherited the house and was managing my finances as my caretaker. Her signature sprawled across pages, a lie in ink. I stared, hands trembling. This wasn't just cruelty, it was theft. That evening, I confronted Claire in her pristine kitchen. I spoke to the bank, I said, standing in the doorway. I know what you did. She didn't flinch, pouring water with casual defiance. You shouldn't poke into things you don't understand, Mom. I understand perfectly, I said. You tried to steal my house. She set the glass down, her voice sharp. You don't work. You don't contribute. You just exist, like wallpaper. I take care of this house. I cook, I clean, you exist, she cut in, her eyes flashing. It's my name on the deed, I said, standing firm. She laughed, dry and cold. You think that matters? You live here because we let you, out of guilt. If you won't cooperate, you shouldn't be here. I felt her words like stones. What does that mean? She stepped closer. You have 1 week to leave, or I'll call the police for trespassing. I saw it then, panic, rage, entitlement. She wanted the house. I didn't argue. I turned, walked to my room, and closed the door. Silence wasn't surrender, it was strategy. That night, I packed a small suitcase, clothes, my wallet, Henry's death certificate, our marriage certificate, the deed, and a photo of us on our wedding day, tucked carefully in cloth. I wrote a note, brief and clear: Claire, I don't hate you, but I'm done begging for space in a home I paid for. I have nothing left to give or ask. I left it under the teapot she ignored, slipped on my shoes, and walked out the back door at dawn. The spring air carried jasmine and asphalt as I rolled my suitcase down the street. I didn't look back. At the motel, I dialed Rachel's number. I need to sell my house, I said. Fast, no delays. Rachel, bright and professional, agreed to meet the next day. I lay awake, not from fear, but from the certainty settling in my chest. Claire thought my silence meant weakness. She forgot I'd built that house with Henry, every nail and memory mine. I wasn't just leaving, I was taking back what was mine. The motel room's fluorescent light buzzed faintly as I sat on the bed, the deed to my Victorian house in hand. Claire's forged mortgage application, her signature claiming my home as hers, lay beside it, a betrayal sharper than her threat to call the police. My garden, my rosemary, the walls Henry and I painted, she wanted it all, without me. But I wasn't the emotional clutter she'd called me. I was Margaret Collins, and I was done being silent. At Arthur's kitchen table, sunlight filtered through citrus trees outside. He reviewed my documents again, his glasses low on his nose. You're untouchable legally, he said. The deed's clean, no liens, no co-owners. Claire's forgery is fraud, plain and simple. I nodded, the weight of her betrayal easing under his certainty. I want the sale airtight, I said. No loopholes for her to exploit. Arthur scribbled notes. I'll draft a power of attorney for the sale, limiting it to Rachel. We'll file everything with the county to block any interference. You're sure about selling? I thought of Henry's grin, our daughter Claire dancing across drop cloths, the home we'd built. I'm sure, I said. It's not my home anymore. Arthur's eyes softened, but he didn't push. I'll call Rachel, set up a meeting. She's sharp, she'll move fast. I left his bungalow feeling lighter, the spark of rebellion now a steady flame. Rachel met me at her real estate office, a small space with a lavender sign. Her eyes, bright and kind, reminded me of her mother, my old library colleague. I want it listed this week, I told her. Private showings, serious buyers only. No open houses. Rachel nodded, making notes. The market's hot. A 3-bedroom Victorian in that neighborhood? We'll get offers fast. I'll need to photograph the property. I hesitated. I don't want to go inside. Not with Claire and David there. She understood. I'll handle it. You stay in the car. The next day, we drove to the house. I waited in Rachel's SUV, my heart tight as she walked the perimeter, snapping photos. The garden's daisies peeked over the fence, a reminder of what I'd tended. Rachel returned with a clipboard. It's in great shape. I'll list it tomorrow. Authorize here. My signature was steady, each stroke a quiet defiance. Back at the motel, I reflected on the house's history. In 1983, Henry and I poured every dime into it, painting walls, planting a garden that was more weeds than flowers. Claire, at 6, twirled barefoot, her laughter filling the air. We'd faced hard times, Henry's layoff, his illness, but the house held our warmth. After his death in 2006, I clung to it, every creak a whisper of him. When Claire invited me to live with her in 2011, I rented it out, hoping for family again. Instead, I became her ghost, cooking, cleaning, shrinking under her rules. Her words, "You just exist," like wallpaper, cut deeper than I'd admitted. But the deed, locked away, was my anchor. That evening, I found a letter from Henry in my suitcase, tucked behind our wedding photo. Margaret, You're stronger than you know. Don't let anyone dim you. I'd forgotten those words, written when he was sick. They steadied me now. Claire's betrayal wasn't just personal, it was financial. Arthur had suggested reporting her forgery to the bank, but I held off. Let's secure the sale first, I said. Then we'll deal with her. He agreed, filing the listing paperwork to protect my rights. Rachel called the next morning. The listing's live. 3 photos, clean description, charming Victorian, owned since 1983. No mention of occupants. I've got 2 virtual showings booked. I exhaled, the plan taking shape. But doubt crept in. What if Claire fought back? She'd forged documents, called me a trespasser. What else was she capable of? I pushed the fear aside, focusing on Henry's words. I wasn't dimmed yet. That night, I overheard a voicemail Claire left on my phone, her voice sharp but unsteady. Mom, where are you? This isn't funny. Come back. She didn't apologize, didn't ask if I was safe. She wanted control, not me. I didn't respond, letting silence be my answer. Arthur called later, his voice calm. Rachel's got a cash buyer lined up for tomorrow. We're moving fast, but we need to prepare for pushback. Claire might try to interfere. I nodded, unseen. Let her try. I'm ready. The motel's quiet wrapped around me, not the silence of fear, but of purpose. I wasn't just selling a house, I was reclaiming my life. Claire thought she'd erased me, but she forgot I'd built that home with love and sweat. Its bones were mine, and I'd decide its fate. The motel's curtains glowed with dawn as I sipped coffee, the deed to my Victorian house safe in my suitcase. Claire's voicemail, Mom, where are you? Come back, still echoed, her tone demanding, not remorseful. She called me emotional clutter, tried to steal my home with forged documents, and threatened police to erase me. But I wasn't gone yet. With Arthur's legal protections and Rachel's swift listing, the house was on the market, and I was ready to reclaim my power. Rachel called at 8 a.m., her voice crisp. The listing's hot. We've got 3 showings today, 2 cash buyers, 1 local couple. I expect offers by evening. I nodded, unseen. Keep it quiet. Claire can't know. Rachel understood. I'm showing it privately while they're at work. You stay out of sight. I spent the day in the motel, Henry's letter in my pocket, you're stronger than you know. It steadied me as I waited, the spark of rebellion now ablaze. By 4 p.m., Rachel texted, 3 offers, all full price or above. Top one's a cash buyer, Diane, a divorcee starting over. Clean deal, closes fast. Your call. I chose Diane, not for the money, though her offer was solid, but for her voice, tired, kind, firm, like mine once was. Draw it up, I told Rachel. I'll sign tonight. Arthur reviewed the contract, his pen marking clauses. It's ironclad, he said. Claire can't touch it. I signed, my hands steady, each stroke a declaration, this house was mine to give, not hers to take. The sale moved at lightning speed. By sunset, the escrow was open, Diane's deposit secured. Rachel sent a courier to Claire's house with a certified envelope, the transfer of ownership to Diane Westfield, notarized and irrevocable, plus a 7-day notice to vacate. The sender's name was mine, Margaret Collins, not Mom. I imagined Claire's face, rereading the pages, searching for a loophole. There wasn't one. She'd mistaken my silence for surrender, but I'd spoken through action. Claire's calls started at 6 p.m., my phone buzzing relentlessly. 7 missed calls, no voicemail. By 8, she left one, her voice sharp, Mom, what are you doing? You can't sell this house. We live here. Are you losing your mind? Call me back. We, she said, not you. Never an apology, just entitlement. I set the phone to silent, letting her panic. The next morning, neighbors began to notice. Cars slowed past the house, whispers drifting through hedges. Is Claire getting evicted? Her mother sold it? By noon, Rachel reported Claire had called her office again, demanding the sale be stopped. She's frantic, Rachel said. But the county's got the deed transfer. She's got no standing. Arthur added, I've flagged her forgery with the bank. They're investigating. She's in deep now. I felt no triumph, only a quiet resolve. Claire had built her throne on my silence, now it was crumbling. That afternoon, Claire tried a new tactic, contacting David's golf buddy, a lawyer, to dispute the sale. Arthur intercepted, sending a cease and desist letter citing her fraudulent mortgage application. David, caught in the crossfire, distanced himself. Rachel overheard him tell a neighbor, I'm staying out of it. Claire went too far. His silence, once a shelter for her cruelty, was now her isolation. I stayed in the motel, watching the city's lights, sipping mint tea like Henry used to make. Each call Claire made, 15 by dinner, was a plea for control, not forgiveness. I found a note in my suitcase, written by Claire at 8, tucked in a school project, You're my favorite person, Mama. The girl who wrote that was gone, replaced by a woman who saw me as wallpaper. Yet, doubt flickered. Was I destroying her life, or reclaiming mine? Arthur's voice cut through, she chose this, Margaret. You're just enforcing consequences. I nodded, clutching Henry's letter. Claire's betrayal wasn't my fault, but her reckoning was my choice. By evening, the neighbors' whispers grew louder. A moving truck appeared at the house, Claire packing alone, her sunglasses hiding red eyes. She called again, her voice breaking, Mom, please, just talk to me. I didn't answer. My silence wasn't cruelty, it was clarity. I'd given her a home, a life, my love. She'd traded it for greed. Now, I was taking back what was mine, not with screams, but with a signature. The city lights blinked beyond my motel window, a quiet hum beneath the weight of Claire's 24 unanswered calls. The sale of my Victorian house to Diane was final, the deed transferred, and Claire's 7-day eviction notice delivered. Her voicemails, Mom, you can't sell this house. We live here, rang with entitlement, not remorse. She called me emotional clutter, forged documents to steal my home, and threatened police to erase me. Now, her world was unraveling, and I was the architect of its collapse. Rachel called at dawn, her voice calm. Claire's packing. The moving truck's there, but she's stalling, hoping for a miracle. Neighbors are talking, her reputation's taking a hit. I pictured Claire, sunglasses hiding red eyes, hauling suitcases alone. David had withdrawn, telling a neighbor, Claire went too far. His silence, once her shield, was now her cage. Arthur added, the bank's investigating her forgery. She's facing potential charges. I nodded, unseen, Henry's letter in my pocket, you're stronger than you know. But strength felt heavy, tinged with doubt. Was I freeing myself, or punishing her? Claire's next move came at noon, a text through a mutual friend, Susan, from her fitness group. Claire wants to meet, talk things out. She's sorry. Can you do lunch tomorrow? I hesitated. The girl who'd written You're my favorite person, Mama at 8 flickered in my mind, but the woman who'd called me a freeloader loomed larger. I agreed, not for reconciliation, but to see her face the truth. We met at a crowded cafe, her choice, public to keep things civil. She wore a forced smile, her makeup smudged, clutching a coffee like a lifeline. Mom, I'm sorry, she began, voice trembling. I didn't mean for this. We needed the house for stability. I sipped my tea, unmoved. You needed my house, Claire, not me. You forged documents, called me a trespasser. Her eyes darted away. It was a mistake. I was stressed. Let me make it right. You can come back, live with us, no rules. I leaned forward. You think an apology undoes theft? You laughed at me, called me wallpaper. I built that house with Henry, not for you to claim. She flinched, tears welling. I'm losing everything, my home, David, my reputation. Please, stop the sale. I shook my head. The sale's done. Diane owns it now. You have 5 days to leave. Her voice cracked. Where will I go? I have nothing. I felt a pang, not guilt, but sorrow for the girl she'd been. You had me, I said softly. You chose this. I stood, leaving her at the table, her sobs muffled by the cafe's chatter. My silence wasn't cruelty, it was a boundary. Back at the motel, Arthur called with an update. Claire's lawyer friend tried to file an injunction, claiming you're incompetent. I sent your bank records and a notarized statement of your mental clarity. It's dead in the water. I exhaled, grateful. What's next? The bank's pressing charges for fraud. She'll likely face a fine, maybe probation. David's moving to his mother's, their marriage is crumbling. I nodded, the consequences piling like stones. Claire's world was shrinking, just as she'd shrunk mine. I found a new apartment that afternoon, a high-rise downtown, modest but mine, paid with the sales proceeds. The balcony overlooked the city, perfect for a small herb garden, mint, like Henry loved. I signed the lease, the pen steady, each stroke a step toward freedom. Rachel helped me move essentials, Henry's photo, my mother's teapot, the deed's copies, while Arthur ensured Claire couldn't access my accounts. You're untouchable now, he said. I smiled faintly, but the victory felt bittersweet. That evening, Claire appeared at my motel, buzzing the front desk. I watched her on the security monitor, her coat thin, hair disheveled, clutching a duffel bag. Mom, please, she said, voice breaking. Let me stay, just until I figure things out. Her eyes, red and puffy, pleaded like when she was 5, praying for a bike. I stood at the window, heart heavy. Don't ever think you can trick an old woman, especially your mother, I said softly through the intercom. No one bathes in the same river twice. Her face fell, understanding dawning. I closed the curtain, my tea cooling, and didn't watch her leave. The neighbors' gossip grew louder, cars slowing past Claire's house, her mother sold it out from under her humiliation complete. David's absence and the moving truck's presence sealed her isolation. I settled into my apartment, the quiet not fear, but rest. Yet, doubt lingered. Had I gone too far? Henry's letter grounded me, don't let anyone dim you. Claire's betrayal wasn't my fault, but her consequences were my choice. I was free, but the cost was a hollow space where family once lived. The mint on my balcony glistened under the morning sun, its scent drifting over my coffee. My high-rise apartment, bought with the sale of the Victorian house, hummed with a quiet I hadn't known in years, not the silence of fear, but of rest. Below, the California city pulsed, skyscrapers like old friends against the dawn. Claire's 30 unanswered calls had stopped a month ago, her eviction from my house complete, her forged mortgage application now a fraud case with the bank. I'd reclaimed my life, but the victory carried a hollow ache where family once was. Rachel visited my new home, her smile warm as she admired the herb garden. You've made it yours, Margaret, she said, sipping tea from my mother's teapot. I nodded, Henry's photo on the shelf a steady presence. It's enough, I said. Arthur called later, updating me on Claire's legal fallout, a $5,000 fine, 6 months probation, and mandatory counseling. David had moved permanently to his mother's, their divorce papers filed. She's living in a friend's guest room, Arthur said. She's humbled, but she's surviving. I exhaled, the weight of her consequences settling. I wasn't cruel, but I didn't need her remorse to move forward. A letter arrived, Claire's handwriting hesitant. Dear Mom, I'm sorry for the house, the lies, for making you feel small. I'm in therapy, trying to understand why I did it. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope you're okay. No excuses, just accountability, fragile but real. Tucked inside was a childhood drawing of us in the garden, daisies in our hands. I didn't cry, but I kept it, a thread to the girl she'd been. Forgiveness wasn't mine to give yet, but I saw a path where it might grow. I joined a community center, teaching gardening to seniors and teens, my hands in soil again. The work filled me, each sprout a reminder of resilience. Susan, Claire's old friend, reached out, apologetic for her silence during Claire's cruelty. "We didn't know how bad it was," she said over coffee. I smiled faintly. "It's done. I'm here now." She shared that Claire was working part-time, rebuilding slowly. I nodded, grateful for the update, but no longer tethered to her story. One evening, Arthur invited me to dinner at his bungalow, citrus trees glowing under string lights. Rachel and her mother, my old library colleague, joined us. To Margaret, Arthur toasted, who remembered her strength. I raised my glass, the clink echoing Henry's words, "Don't let anyone dim you." The laughter that followed was warm, not nervous like at Claire's party, where she'd called me a fixture. This was my chosen family, built on respect, not obligation. 6 months later, I spoke at the community center about elder rights, invited by a local advocacy group. "Age doesn't erase dignity," I said to a small crowd, my voice steady. "But those closest to us can exploit it, mistaking silence for weakness." I shared my story, without naming Claire, earning nods and questions. Susan, in the audience, clapped fiercely. Afterward, a young woman approached, her eyes bright. "My mom's in a similar situation." "What did you do?" I smiled. I remembered what was mine and acted. Claire sent another letter, longer, detailing her therapy progress and a new job at a small law firm. "I'm learning to own my mistakes," she wrote. "I hope one day we can talk, not as before, but as we are now." I didn't respond, but I kept the letter beside the drawing. Arthur suggested a mediated meeting, but I wasn't ready. "Time will tell," I said. He nodded, understanding. My peace wasn't tied to Claire's redemption, it was mine, earned through soil, silence, and a signature. One spring morning, I stood on my balcony, crushing mint between my fingers, the city waking below. A call came, not Claire, but the community center, offering me a paid role leading their gardening program. I accepted, my heart light. The house I'd sold was Diane's now, her laughter filling its rooms, as mine once had with Henry and Claire. I didn't regret it. That home had held my past, this apartment held my future. As dusk painted the skyline lavender, my phone buzzed, Claire again. I let it ring, not out of anger, but choice. I wasn't the woman who begged for kindness, nor the one who forgave too soon. I was Margaret Collins, whole, with mint on my hands and a life I'd built anew. If Claire wanted a place in it, she'd have to earn it, step by honest step. For now, I sipped my tea, the city humming back, and let the quiet be my home. The autumn breeze carried the scent of mint across my balcony, where pots of herbs thrived under the California sun. A year had passed since I'd stood here last, watching the city hum below my high-rise apartment, my new home bought with the sale of the Victorian house I'd built with Henry. Claire's betrayal, her threat to call the police, her forged documents to steal my home, her dismissal of me as emotional clutter, had faded like a bruise, still tender but no longer defining. I was Margaret Collins, not the ghost she'd made me, and my life bloomed anew. My days were full, rooted in purpose. The community center's gardening program, now under my leadership, had grown into a haven for seniors and teens, our hands coaxing life from soil. We'd planted a community plot downtown, daisies and rosemary nodding in the wind, a mirror to the garden I'd left behind. Last month, the city awarded us a grant to expand, and I'd framed the certificate beside Henry's photo, his grin a quiet cheer. My talks on elder rights drew larger crowds, my story, told without naming Claire, inspiring whispers of courage among strangers. "You gave me the strength to speak up," a woman told me after one lecture, her eyes bright. I smiled, knowing silence was no longer my cage. Claire's letters arrived monthly, each more honest than the last. Her latest, received last week, spoke of her new life, a modest apartment, a steady job at a legal aid clinic, and therapy that peeled back layers of resentment. "I'm not the daughter you deserved, Mom, but I'm trying to be someone I can face in the mirror," she wrote. Enclosed was a photo of her volunteering at a shelter, her smile tentative but real. I kept it with her childhood drawing of us in the garden, not forgiveness yet, but an acknowledgement of her effort. Arthur, ever practical, suggested a mediated meeting. "She's changed," he said over coffee at his bungalow. "Not enough to trust, but enough to listen." I agreed, setting a date for next month, boundaries firm. David's divorce from Claire was finalized, his absence a footnote now. He'd sent a card at Christmas, apologizing for his silence during her cruelty. I didn't respond, letting his regret rest unanswered. Rachel, now a friend, updated me on the old house. Diane had turned it into a cozy home, her laughter-filling rooms where mine once echoed with Henry and Claire. I felt no loss, only gratitude that its bones sheltered someone new. The Second Chances Foundation, a charity I'd supported with part of the sales proceeds, thrived, offering scholarships to elders and youth, a legacy of resilience. One evening, Susan joined me for tea, her guilt over Claire's actions softened by time. "She talks about you," Susan said. "Says she hopes to earn your trust someday." I nodded, sipping mint tea, the city's lights flickering beyond. "Someday," I said, leaving the door ajar but not open. My chosen family, Arthur, Rachel, Susan, my gardening students, filled the space Claire had left, their warmth a contrast to her cold entitlement. At a community dinner, we toasted to growth, my glass raised to Henry's memory, "Don't let anyone dim you." Yesterday, I walked the community plot, my hands in dirt, a teen named Lila beside me, planting lavender. "Why do you keep going?" she asked, her voice shy. I crushed a mint leaf, its scent sharp. "Because even after betrayal, you can start again," I said. "You plant, you tend, you grow." She smiled, and I saw myself in her, in Claire, in every woman I'd helped. My silence, once a ledger of pain, was now a story of strength shared. As dusk painted the skyline lavender, I stood on my balcony, the city alive below. Claire's meeting loomed, a chance to listen, not to fix, but to see who she was now. I wasn't the mother who'd forgiven too soon, or nor the one who'd begged for kindness. I was whole, my life a garden I'd tended through loss and triumph. If Claire wanted a place in it, she'd walk the slow path of trust, step by honest step. For now, I sipped my tea, the mint sharp on my tongue, and let the quiet be my home, my peace, my victory.